Pretty gross.
Hey guys, it's Kayla
and Alyssa, and we're the hosts of Pretty Gross.
We're a bi-weekly podcast that deep dives into all that is disgustingly fascinating and adorably vile.
From weird fetishes to nasty habits to the absolute worst the World Wide Web has to offer, we're here to keep you well informed on all the gross news that's fit to print.
But don't worry, we do all the heavy lifting. Like our motto says,
we look at gross things on the internet
so that you don't have to.
You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts and follow us across all our social media at Pretty Gross Gals.
And get ready
to get gross.
Pretty gross.
Welcome to Unsung Sluts. I'm Tabitha.
And I'm Stacie. Hello, everybody.
How y'all doing? They can't answer me.
Where were you just now?
In the South somewhere.
Okay. Welcome back.
It was a nice vacation. I needed to get some Southern food.
That actually sounds really good.
Right?
Oh my God, at the knitting store, there are lots of women that know how to cook very well. But in particular, Hope and Angie are fucking cooking goddesses. I really miss being there. And mostly it's that food.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, I miss Chris, but oh man, that food, whatever Angie would bring in on the weekends. Oh.
No, last night my sister-in-law made us some spring rolls, and I am sad that I had to share them with everyone because I easily could have eaten 6 by myself. So fucking good with this like homemade Vietnamese spicy sauce, which was like, she was laughing at me because like apparently I
was.
Oh yeah, she was like, that's not even spicy.
Is there a Chinese word like gringo? Like, like
not
I get called a
really.
gringo because I'm white,
Yeah.
and also because I can't stand like any spicy food.
I
don't enjoy it.
I think it's like more like foreigner. Like
okay.
It's kind of like the like that Scottish Sassenach, foreigner, outlander,
English woman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Icelander in German. Ich bin ein Ausländer. I'm an outsider.
I like it.
Yeah. So today,
Yeah.
we're going to tell some fucking crazy stories about some badass women, hopefully.
See, the problem is I wanted to talk about this lady.
Yeah.
And her accomplishments. It's not like what we've reported on before. Her life is so what the fuck that it doesn't really fit under any other category. Like she just had a what the actual fuck kind of life. But I wanted to talk about her because it's crazy.
Well, hopefully the woman I have chosen has enough what the fuck, what the actual fuck, which is the title of our episode today. So welcome to
W.T.A.F.
what the actual fuck. So hopefully there's enough what the fuck to like measure up to what you're going to throw at me because I don't really, again, This is a surprise for both of us.
Oh, yes.
So,
yes.
Can I go first? Because
yeah,
I'm super
you're excited. You go.
Okay. So I just usually like will kind of like talk about a theme and then I go do a Google search,
That's right.
I found this woman and I think it's kind of, I think it's kind of crazy. I talk with my hands, so I think it's kind of crazy that I've never heard of her before because we've all heard of the Great Wall. Right.
Okay.
The Great Wall of China.
Of China.
They have a pretty great wall there.
Yeah.
It's like
I've heard.
Pretty great.
Yeah.
But not a lot of us have heard about this woman.
Okay.
Who, spoiler alert, may or may not have something to do with the Great Wall of China. So
it'd be so funny if she didn't after that preamble.
Exactly. So I'm going to introduce you to Mandukhai, or Queen Mandukhai the Wise, as she is sometimes known.
Okay.
She was the only daughter of the Chiesley of the Ungud Mongols in eastern Mongolia, and she was born in 1449. So the Chiesley is like he's the grand counselor, but he's basically like a vizier almost.
Okay.
But
not like emperor, like below emperor?
There wasn't really emperors, but he would be like the chief.
Oh,
if there was like
okay.
a tribal leader, but there was a lot more like democratic decision making. So he didn't really have like, she became the queen because she was like, fuck that.
She's the queen.
Yeah. He wasn't the Khan, which would be like, that would be like, but he was like up there.
Okay.
So she had some importance, enough to the point where she married Mandul Khan when she was either 16 or 18. A lot of the stuff that I read about her was kind of interesting because there was a gap of between 2 and 5 years for pretty much every major thing that happened to her. Like some people were like, no, it happened here, and no, it happened then, and not a lot of record keeping. So she was maybe 16 or 18. And then she maybe had 2 daughters, but maybe they weren't her daughters. Maybe they were Mandul Khan's female relatives that she cared for.
Okay.
So sometimes...
So sketchy details.
Yeah. So sometimes the 2 girls are called her daughters and are counted among her children. And sometimes not, depending on the historian.
Okay.
So either way... the Khan had another wife, at least one other wife. And so his senior wife was childless. And this care of these 2 daughters or maybe sisters or cousins or whatever they were, along with her just kind of innate intelligence, the Khan ended up favoring her over his senior wife.
Okay.
So she took...
Favoring our girl.
Favoring, yeah.
Who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mandukhai.
Mandukhai.
She kind of was like, took the place of first wife, of senior wife.
Okay.
Over the childless other wife, who was the first wife. So approximately around 1478 or 1479, Mandul Khan died under mysterious circumstances. Many historians believe that he was poisoned by a Ming Dynasty spy.
Wow, intrigue.
So the Ming Dynasty really didn't like the Mongols, which, like, I think everybody knows this.
Sure. If not, thanks for the refresher.
Yeah, just so in case
soon?
you didn't know, if you haven't seen Mulan or done any research on history ever, you might not know. The Chinese and the Mongols they were not cool with each other. So since Mandul had left no heir, there were several Mongol princes who started to fight over the position of Khan.
Okay.
And this sent his wives into hiding because they then become targets of assassination and whatnot.
Sure.
So at this point, his senior wife disappears from history. And most people believe she just went into hiding.
Okay.
But Mandukhai does not disappear from history. She goes into hiding, and while she is hiding, she meets this adorable 9-year-old child. Okay?
Okay.
When they meet, he's 7. Okay.
Okay.
And his name is Batmunk. And he is the last known legitimate descendant of Genghis Khan.
Whoa, no shit.
Yeah. So she's like, oh my God, you're so cute. Little 7-year-old. So I'm going to adopt you. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So this is because other legitimate heirs of the Khan had been, favored by different Mongol leaders. And so there was a lot of like adopting Genghis's heirs and then them dying.
Oh.
So they had been killed off.
Ooh.
So she finds this little boy and she's like, I'm going to help you out. And by help you out, I mean she's going to use him to become a queen, basically. So Mandukhai comes out
Kind of a quid pro quo.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, I'll be your mom, and then we'll take over. It's going to be awesome. So it's very much like this story really reminded me of Star Wars because it was totally like Padme and Anakin. Anyway, so you'll see. Spoiler alert, it gets crazy. So Mandukhai,
that's awesome.
She comes out of hiding with this little boy who she's adopted, and she proclaims him Diane Khan, which is the new king or the great Khan or the Khan of the whole universe. Okay? So so she's like,
Okay.
This guy is the king of the fucking universe, as far as she has declared.
Just a side, did they know universe? Were they advanced that they got that there's like...
I mean, universe, I think, would be in the sense of like, there was astronomy and an understanding of
suppose you're
like
right,
the
yeah.
greater space around us.
Yeah.
I don't know that they generally like even now, like with the science that we have, we can't really conceptualize like the vastness of the universe.
Yeah,
so
of
like,
course. Okay.
But yeah, planets and other stuff that was
They
around
got that
us.
at least.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And he was the supreme ruler of all of this.
Yeah, he's the king of all of that, obviously, at 7.
Yeah.
He's like totally ready for this, level of power. So she basically...
Thinking about Kent at 7.
Yeah. I'm in charge. Boom.
Okay.
So she basically forces the Ungud, who are, that's like, there are a bunch of different factions of Mongols, and so she's the Ungud. And so she shows up and she's like, this is your king. And they're like, no, but he said, and she's like, no. I fucking said, this is your king. Listen up, king. And they're like, okay. So she becomes, basically she's a regent to the king of the fucking universe. And so, which makes her queen of the fucking universe. Okay.
Yeah.
So this other guy, Unubold, proposes to her. He's a major Mongol general.
Okay.
And so he's like, I can see that you're single, and who wants to be single?
Right.
So will you marry me? I'm very dashing. And she's like, no, thanks. And he's also descendant. He's actually a descendant of Genghis Khan's brother. So he's like, this is like
That's
solid,
huge.
yeah, this is a solid marriage proposal. And
Okay.
she's like, no, thanks. I'm just going to be queen of the fucking universe. So by rejecting this proposal, she maintains her position of authority, right? If she marries this guy,
he would become...
he would become
Okay.
king of the fucking universe.
Okay.
And he's like cool and all, but now to his credit, after being denied for the proposal, he still maintains his allegiance. Like he serves her and the Khan loyally.
Wow.
Yeah, he's
That's not how the movies go.
No, he's definitely a stand-up bloke.
Okay.
He's a good
Okay.
one. So,
And is it because he's the brother of the Khan that
Yeah.
he would kind of usurp that 7-year-old?
yeah. So there was a lot
Why
of...
can't he usurp him right now? Just because she's saying he's the leader?
Because basically. She is basically like, come in and is like, no, this is the way it is.
Wow.
And
Okay.
everyone just kind of... this is an intelligent woman who has been taught to rule by her family and just really owns it, I guess. So also she, like a lot of women in Mongolia, even today, although only recently there's like eagle hunters and stuff, there's only like 1 or 2
I've seen the
female-
pictures.
Right, yeah.
Oh, God, they're so cool.
But women have fought alongside men for a while. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like a weird thing. She is a warrior. So she leads her people into war with the Oirats, who are another group of Mongols.
Okay.
And there's a lot of like infighting. After Genghis Khan died, his brothers and his heirs kind of whittled away the kingdom. And so Mongolia is left with a lot of warring factions, and their great kingdom has kind of been broken down by like years and years of like stupid fat people, apparently like that was a big thing. Like there was a lot of like laziness in the leaders and gluttony and just kind of like giving, like really enjoying the power and wealth, but not really being a
Working
stand-up
to
leader.
prolong the wealth and prosperity.
So Mandukhai is like not like that. She's not down with that shit.
Okay.
They beat the Oirats and it's crazy. Everyone's like, what? She beat the Oirats, and she finally brings back some of the reputation. And when she defeats them and overpowers them, they now are a united Mongolia for the first time in 100 years.
Wow.
She brings back the people together. So to kind of ensure that they really understand who's in charge now, she lays down some rules. Mm-hmm. Most historians believe that these were more like symbolic rules than laws. But then depending on what you read, it's like some are laws. So they're kind of funny. The Orats cannot wear helmets with crests more than 3 fingers long. So no ostentatious costume.
Thou shalt have no false idol type of thing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like they could not refer to their gur or yurt as an orden, which means palace. So no more thinking that you're better than everybody else because you have a bigger house.
Oh, interesting.
And you have to kneel in the presence of the Khan. So know who your leader is.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And most of these rules were symbolic to the point where what she was trying to do was instill a more simple, direct way of being that had been successful for Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan did not live in a crazy big yurt. He didn't eat more than his soldiers. He definitely boned more than his soldiers.
Sure.
But
Are you related to him? Did it say in your DNA?
It didn't. No.
I don't think it was for me either.
But so he aside from like the number of women that he slept with, he was a pretty simple person, and he embodied that kind of more simplistic life. And she felt that if the Mongols could get back to that, then they could be more successful again. There was also the rule that they couldn't use knives to eat their meat, but that a lot of historians think that it was just because she took away their knives so they couldn't fight back. And then eventually gave them their knives back. So
that's great.
So Mandukhai is like, she's super killing it. She's owning the Mongols and everything. And by this time, the Khan turns 18 or 19. And she decides that to consolidate power, the best decision is for her to marry him. So this is the 7-year-old that she has raised.
Okay, this is young Anakin.
Right? So Padme,
Jesus.
read Mandukhai, marries him. And she becomes Mandukhai Khatun, which is Queen of the fucking universe. So now it's official.
Oh my God.
She's officially Queen of the universe.
By the way, I just looked it up, and 1 in 200 men are direct descendants of Genghis Khan.
There you go.
And modern men.
Yeah.
1 in 200.
And so
think
those
about
are
all of the men in the entire world.
Yeah.
1 in 200 are related to this boning motherfucker.
Yeah.
Literally.
And that it was kind of a surprise to me when I was reading about the legitimate heirs being killed off, because we know that there's genetic remnants of his scattered all over the world.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting to think that this is only like not even a couple hundred years after he lived.
Yeah. That
already they're like, no, this only one guy is like legitimately they can actually trace him, because they didn't have 23andMe. So
no. Sadly.
Yeah. So
they would have just all pointed. It's one arrow going straight to the Genghis Khan.
Just one. So she's trying to finish uniting the Mongols, but at the same time, there's still a lot of frustration with the Ming Dynasty, because the Ming Dynasty, again, does not like the Mongols. Mm-hmm. The coolest thing, too, is that every time they fight, she is leading them into battle.
Like Boudica.
Yeah. The Khan he's okay at fighting. He joins her a little bit at first, but she is definitely the one who is in charge. Okay. She's raised him. She definitely knows more about this than he does. She's taught him a considerable amount, of course.
I would think.
But she is definitely the leader here.
Okay.
So the Orites rebel because they're a bunch of bitches. Or
a repressed community. You be the judge.
Whatever. Depends on who was writing the history,
the
I guess.
victors write the history.
Well, sadly, the Mongols, as we know, there wasn't so much winning eventually. The Orites rebel, and so she leads the army into battle, despite being significantly pregnant.
Whoa.
With twins.
Whoa.
Yeah. P.S., if we're keeping track, this also means that she has totally boned this kid.
7-year-old.
That he's
older.
18.
Now he's 18.
But still, yeah. So anyway.
Not that they were checking IDs back then.
Anakin. So she's leading them into battles, full on preggers, and she gets fucked up. She gets knocked off her horse and she gets injured. Okay. So she's taken briefly off the battlefield. Mm-hmm. She delivers twins. They're cool. They're fine. She's okay. She recovers relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And she returns to battle, and her army wins and squashes the rebellion.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Way to go, Padme.
Partially because I think, meanwhile, Padme has twins, and what happens to her? She's a crybaby little... Anyway.
It's a different podcast.
R.I.P. Padme. That is a different podcast. And believe me, it will happen.
Y'all should hear her talk about this. Her diatribe, her symposium that she goes off on is pretty fucking hilarious.
That's all right. I'll tell you all one day. So in 1480, Dayan Khan and Mandukhai have increased the pressure on the Ming Dynasty. The Ming Dynasty has said, we're not going to trade with you anymore because we don't like you because you're Mongols.
Fuck you guys.
Yeah. And the Mongols are like, what the fuck? And so they send an envoy to try and like talk peace and trade. And the Mings fucking kill the envoy.
Well,
so she's like, what the fuck? You know what this means? Now I got to come fuck you up.
Yeah.
So there are several battles then along the borders that they share with the Ming and incursions by the Ming trying to take over Mongol land. Mandukhai's success on the battlefield makes the Ming nervous.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the Ming keeps getting pushed back and keeps getting pushed back, and they're not getting anywhere. Mm-hmm. So they decide that what they need to do is expand the wall to defend themselves from her. Okay.
Yeah.
So they've been building this wall since like the 5th century, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
This is the largest expansion since Genghis Khan. Like they have not needed to expand the wall substantially. And this expansion, there's a lot of newer technology in construction and brick building and whatnot.
Sure, I would think so.
So this expansion makes up a huge percentage of the portions of the wall that are still standing.
Oh.
That were built to keep Mandukhai, queen of the fucking universe, out of China.
That's rad.
Right? I was like, that's fucking cool.
I can see the movie poster. Not since Genghis Khan have we needed such a big fucking wall.
Yeah, because this bitch is gonna
'Cause this
fucking
bitch
kill us.
is queen of the universe.
She had twins on the battlefield and still kicked ass. Yeah. So
Wow.
the downside of this is they double time on the construction and they expand the wall significantly. Meanwhile, like they're still trying to fight and regain some footing, but China busts out with gunpowder.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So
Someone brought a gun to a spear fight.
Yeah, somebody brings a gun to a spear fight, and the Mongols are on their tiny little horses, and it's just not going to fucking cut it.
Oh, that
So,
sucks. I mean,
it does.
good for China.
So
But,
she does reoccupy the Ordos, so she kind of backs off a little bit.
Okay.
And she dethrones the Dayan Khan, her husband. And
Awkward.
yeah, they have to flee after China attacks. She dethrones him, so she's the queen still, but he's not the Khan anymore.
Okay.
She's just taken over
She's
and
just
is
everything.
now, she's just in charge.
Okay.
So they have to run away, basically, in 1501. Her husband continues to run raids on the Ming, but they continue to be defeated because they have no guns.
Right.
You know, and actually at this time it's not really guns, it's more like cannons.
Yeah.
So, not great. Eventually, Mandukhai, like all mortals, dies in 1510. According to most credible sources, she died of natural causes, though there are some legends, and this is the interesting thing about her, a lot of her story is legendary. So finding actual facts about how everything went down is a little bit of a challenge because there's a lot of like crazy legends about her.
Sure.
There's a legend that she was actually killed by a Ming double agent or by a jealous concubine.
Ew.
Which I find that one less likely, just because I feel like I just don't believe that anybody would like. I feel like it's more probable that she just died of natural causes because she was such a fucking hard ass. Like nobody could kill her. Are you kidding? She's queen of the fucking universe. I don't think so.
How old was she when she died?
1510, so she was born in 1440 something. So
Oh wow! So
like,
she
into her.
We're not talking like
50s?
at the ripe old age of 25.
No,
she died of old age.
Yeah, she
that's great.
lived for
Okay.
quite a while, and she kicked ass for most of the time. So there's a film called Queen Mandukhai the Wise that suggests that she was killed by a Mongolian general who wanted to take her place. Her grave was never found. There's a steel monument, not made of steel, but a steel, like a, stone thing to celebrate her, like,
okay.
her, and it's got carved into it kind of some of her exploits and a bit of her legend. Through the course of all of that fighting and kicking ass and everything, she bore 7 sons and 3 daughters, or 1 daughter, depending on whether or not those other 2 daughters. And all later Khans and nobles of Mongolia are her descendants.
Interesting.
Yeah. Her descendants ruled Mongolia for 4 centuries after her death, until the Soviet era beginning in 1924.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just about up until about 100 years ago.
So yeah, if you did your mitochondrial DNA, a lot of those men that are related to Genghis Khan might also be related to her.
Absolutely.
So,
that's super cool.
isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So
I like that.
she's that's. I just thought the whole thing about them expanding the wall to protect themselves from her, I was like, oh hell yeah.
Yeah, I think so because it's so tangible to us. We've seen
Yeah.
pictures. We've seen pictures from space of this wall, and I think that's a very tangible thing that's in our psyche. And to think that a large portion of that had to be built because of her.
Yeah. And generally the story that we get is that the wall was built to keep out Genghis Khan. Like that's the
Absolutely.
idea.
That's all I heard.
And the parts that we see of the wall, the parts that are like more commercialized, have also been repaired. As early as recently as the 80s, there were substantial repairs made, and so there are big portions of the wall that are overgrown. Initially, the wall was being built with like a lot of like mud bricks and things like that. So those things have decayed
That makes
quicker and
sense.
stuff. But even the parts that have been repaired, a lot of that portion was built around this time.
Yeah,
And so that's really cool to think that like.
Did your sister-in-law know the story?
No, not this one, but we talked a little bit about Mulan.
Oh, okay.
And so I found out there's another woman that she told me about, because this is Mongolian history, so it's taught a little bit differently in China.
Oh, yeah.
So these people, she's an enemy, basically, if you're looking from the perspective of the Chinese history.
And like I said, the victor writes the history.
Yeah, exactly. But there is another woman that she told me about that was a Chinese leader that I will probably talk about later, who was like a fucking badass.
Maybe she can come in and talk.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Totally.
Let's set that one up.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting.
yeah.
The stuff that like we weren't taught. After our very first episode, and I was all excited, so I went to work at the yarn store, and I was talking about what I had learned from you about Budokai. And it just so happened that there was a customer in the store that was visiting LA from Ireland. And she couldn't believe that I was talking about this warrior woman. Because she's like, no one outside of like the UK knows about this. Like she was proud of her heritage, or just proud of that person in history.
Yeah.
So it was really weird, but like I'd not heard of her until you told me about her.
Yeah.
And she's a big deal.
She's a big deal, and it is interesting, and I think that this is again why we do this, because I feel like we don't really get deeply into Chinese history or Mongolian history, but we certainly learn about the construction of the Great Wall.
Yeah.
And there's not even any like recognition of the fact that this wall wasn't built all in a day, all at once. That it was
Yeah.
built over several centuries, and for
I thought
so it's
that
kind
it
of
probably
interesting.
took a long time based
Yeah.
on technology that you're right, it wasn't built in a day. Like if you told me that the wall was built over 4 centuries, my mind my public school mind would say, well, that makes sense that it took that long to build. Not a starting and a stopping. Like, okay, we've protected ourselves from Genghis Khan. The wall only needs to come right here. We are
Yeah.
so cool. We're safe now.
Yeah.
But then this bitch shows up and they're like, oh shit, get the stones.
Yeah.
We need a bigger wall to save us from her.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Also, probably cost more than $5 billion.
Yeah, but that wall got fucking done.
They
This
had
wall ain't.
at least they had a real legitimate reason to build it.
No shit.
Oh, sure.
Speaking of what the actual fuck.
Right?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, you ready for this?
Shock me, shock me,
Okay.
shock me.
Yeah, this story is just really, really cool.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you about Rachel Chiesley. It's Chiesley. Okay, she's Scottish or
Okay.
English. And usually she's known as Lady Grange. She lived from 1679 to 1745. She was one of 10 children born to John Chiesley of Dalry and Margaret Nicholson. It sounds like her early life was kind of fucked up. Her parents were not happily married. And with 10 kids, I mean, she had 10 brothers and sisters, well, including herself. You would think that her parents got along, like, occasionally,
Yeah.
but maybe not. So the
Maybe
mom...
it wasn't like a mutual.
Admiration Society?
Yeah.
So Margaret, the mother, took her husband to court for aliment, I think it's pronounced. It's a kind of spousal support in 17th century Scotland. And she was awarded 1,700 merks. A merk is a silver coin, and at this time it had roughly the same value as an English shilling. She got 1,700 of them. Well, as you can probably imagine, Rachel's father was pretty pissed off that she was awarded this amount. And so on the way home from church one Easter Sunday, he shot her dead in the street on High Street in Edinburgh. Just shot her.
Wow,
Just
on-
killed her. On the High Street. This is like Main Street.
Yeah. No, I
Just
know.
like, I'm sick of your shit, bitch. Kablam.
Shit. She must
He
have been
didn't
talking
run.
some shit.
He didn't run.
He just stood there.
Yeah, and also, he's coming from church. I think he missed the fucking message.
Yeah.
Of like, love thy
Maybe.
neighbor and don't shoot your fucking wife.
Maybe it was one of those services about vengeance.
Oh, maybe.
I mean, there's a lot of that shit in the Bible.
There's a lot of that. It could have
Maybe it
been
was
that.
like,
And he's like, hey,
shoot
this sounds good.
Shoot thy wife in the street.
Yeah.
Damn.
So I think there's some commandments about this. Like,
I think so. There at least two of them
Right.
are pretty staunchly against this
I agree with you. So he didn't try to escape. His trial was held the following day. He confessed.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, yeah.
Easy peasy.
Shot the bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then 2 days later, he was taken from the toll booth to the Mercat Cross on the high street where his right hand was cut off and he was hanged until he was dead.
Damn. Why
And
did they
the-
cut his hand off first?
I think it was you did this bad thing with your hand. And also, they took his gun and put it around his neck. He had to wear his gun.
That's kind of. Oh,
Isn't this ghastly?
yeah, but I kind of like it.
Justice. Scottish justice. Our girl Rachel was about 10 years old when this all went down. So if she didn't witness it, it
Well,
affected her.
presumably she did because they all went to. I would assume,
Right?
Unless she
Like
was
you would
ill
go,
or something,
right?
that they would all go to church together.
I didn't find, well, yeah, I would, yes, there's that. And then would she have been at the trial? Would she have been at the torture and execution?
Oy.
Yeah. So not a great start to her
Not
life, right?
really.
So now I'm going to jump forward to the time when Rachel was about 28 years old. It was at this point that historians think she got married to a James Erskine, Lord Grange. And it's from this marriage that she took the name Lady Grange. Historians say that Lady Grange was, quote, a wild beauty. And it is likely the marriage took place after she became pregnant.
Hubba.
Like, seriously, it's reported that this was literally a shotgun wedding. A gun was held on him for the, I guess I do's,
Yeah.
right? Her husband was a successful lawyer. He became Lord Justice Clerk in 1710. And their marriage produced 9 children.
Wow.
Yeah. In addition to that, though, she did miscarry twice. And one of the above children, I can give you their names. There's Charlie, Johnny, James, Mary, Meggie, Fanny, Jeannie, Rachel, and John.
Okay.
Okay? But one of the children was known to have died.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna say, did they all survive?
I have some of their born dates. I don't have their dead dates.
Vampires.
good enough. I'll go with that. So what are the chances that these two kids have a happy, lovey-dovey marriage, especially with the role models that Rachel had?
I'm going to go with none.
Yeah,
No chance.
it wasn't. In fact, one of the children's tutors recorded in his diary that Lady Grange was, quote, imperious with an unreasonable temper. Yeah. Her outbursts were said to really scare her younger daughters in particular. Like it's written. That she was also a heavy drinker. As her marriage got worse, her behavior became worse. She also discovered that her husband was having an affair with a coffee house owner named Fanny Lindsay.
Fanny. That's an
Fanny
appropriate name
again.
for a woman that you're
And they had a
sleeping
daughter named Fanny.
with. Yeah, but in like English slang, you know what a fanny is, right?
In April of 1730, she threatened suicide and threatened to run naked through the streets of Edinburgh. And this is fucking crazy. She kept a razor under her pillow and would intimidate her husband, saying, "You remember whose daughter I am, right?"
Okay, so this sounds like maybe there's a little bit of like mental illness in the family.
Yeah, think?
Right? Like maybe everybody needed to like see a therapist or
Perhaps.
something. You know?
Perhaps a soothsayer at the very least.
Oh, have a nice leeching.
Yes. Little bloodletting never hurt anyone. You have ghosts in your blood. You should
Let's drill
You
a
should
hole
try
in your
cocaine about it.
Let's drill a hole in your skull and
There you
spin you
go.
around and see if you feel better.
Yeah. So on the 27th of July of that year, she signed a formal letter of separation from James Erskine, but this did not make things any better. She verbally abused her husband in the street and in church, and he and one of their children were forced to hide from her in a tavern for 2 hours. She intercepted one of his letters and took it to the authorities, alleging it was evidence of treason.
Oh, shit.
And it probably was, because his brother was a big-time Jacobite supporter.
Oh, shit.
Right? I mean, this is like serious fucking shit
Oh,
now.
yeah, no, I know. Wait, what year was this? Was this the
Like
45
1730s.
or was
This is just before the 45.
Oh, okay, all
Okay?
right, yeah,
like
yeah,
the 45 enters into this. I can't go into it because I have too much else to talk about.
Yeah.
But shit goes down.
Okay, yeah.
We
I know
about
a
this.
lot about that stuff.
Yeah. I know you did. She stood outside her husband's house waving that letter and shouting obscenities. Oh. Like, I know what you did.
Damn.
In January 1732, 2 years after her separation, she booked a stagecoach to London. Her husband and his two friends fucking freaked out because they're like, oh shit, she's going to go tell on me. She's going to go turn me in. Whether it's true or not,
Yeah.
I'm fucked.
Why else is she going to London?
And also, like I said, his brother was super in the rebellion. Right, so she's going to go to London. So her husband and some of his friends decided to take action.
Yeah.
They kidnapped her. They straight up abducted her ass. Lady Grange was abducted from her home on the night of the 22nd of January, 1732, by 2 Highland noblemen and several of their men.
Oh, shit.
And this is fucked up. Do you want to hear what actually happened in her words?
Yeah.
Her letters still exist.
Oh, cool.
And she talks about what the fuck happened to her. So I'm going to read this, but this is in her hand
Okay.
with like no punctuation. So I'm going to do my best to kind of make it sound coherent.
Okay.
Because it's also written in the verbiage of her time.
Oh,
yeah.
So it's going to be in like Scottish
English, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Upon the 22nd of January, 1732, I lodged in Margaret Malene's house, and a little before 12 at night, Mrs. Malene, being on the plot, opened the door, and there rushed into my room some servants of Lavat's and his cousin Roderick MacLeod. He is a writer to the signet. They threw me down upon the floor in a barbarous manner. I cried, "Murther, murther!" Then they stopped my mouth. I pulled out the cloth and told Rod MacLeod I knew him. Their hard, rude hands bleed and abased my face all below my eyes. They dung out some of my teeth
Oh, shit.
and tore the cloth of my head and tore out some of my hair. I wrestled and defended myself with my hands. Then Rod ordered to tie down my hands and cover my face most pitifully. There was no skin left on my face with a cloth, and stopped my mouth again. They had wrestled so long with me. that it was all I could do to breathe. Then they carried me downstairs as a corpse.
Damn.
She wrote that in 1738.
Holy shit.
So she was taken out of the city to Westerpolmes near Falkirk, where she was held until the 15th of August on the ground floor of an uninhabited tower. Keep in mind at this point, she's like 50 years old. So she's not a
And she's
young
had the
woman.
shit beat out of her.
And what the fuck? You've just kidnapped? What's going on? Yeah. So what totally sucks is that no one in her family seemed to give a shit that she was missing and gone. No action was ever taken on her behalf by any of her children. And they were old enough to know better. The oldest one was like in her 20s at the time.
But it doesn't sound like she was a present parent.
No. Margaret, there's a writer, Margaret McCullough, who wrote that, quote, the calm acceptance by the family of her mother's disappearance could or would persuade many that it need not be a matter of concern to them either. Like if your neighbor's like, so your mom's missing, and you're like, yeah, then the neighbor's going to go, oh, all right.
Right.
Right? Yeah, mom's gone, pass the chips.
I guess if you're not worried, I'm not worried.
Yeah, but of course, just like you said, this may also be because it was reported that she had disinherited all of her children when they were infants.
What? When they were infants?
When the youngest was still an infant.
What?
Yeah, so they weren't
She
crushed.
was not a very nice
She wasn't a good
lady.
mommy. No. So now I'll take you through the journey that Lady Grange went on.
Okay.
Kidnapped.
Face bloodied, teeth
Yes.
out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, she was a woman of stature.
Yeah.
She owned or was in charge of this kind of building establishment. She was like a big clerk of this, it sounded like almost like a landlord, like she was in charge of something. So this wasn't just a woman, a poor woman who no one gave a shit about.
Yeah.
She had standing. She's Lady Grange.
Yeah.
Okay. From Western Polmes, she was taken through Perthshire. At Balquhidder, according to MacGregor tradition, she was entertained in the Great Hall, provided with a meal of venison, and slept on a heather bed covered with deerskins. So that doesn't sound so bad, but I don't want to pass judgment on that because it could have still been shitty.
Yeah.
The details from here, though, aren't very clear to historians, but it's likely she was taken through Glencoe to Loch Ness and then through Glengarry to Loch Hourn on the west coast. Then she was put in a boat and shipped out to the Monach Isles. And before you think that this might have been a grand traveling adventure, it sucked ass.
Oh, yeah.
She was in the company of men whose loyalty was to clan chieftains rather than the law. So it's not like, well, they're not going to hurt me because that's against the law. If the chieftain says hurt her, rape her, or whatever,
Yeah.
that's what would happen.
Well, they were trying to win back their independence. If this is right before the 45, then all they care about is bringing back the clan power, and they don't care about the crown.
No.
So if her power lies in the crown, then it's meaningless.
Yes.
Yeah.
And very few of them spoke English.
Yeah, and she likely did not speak.
She did not understand the native Gaelic.
Yeah.
People, this is what sucks. People knew who she was. People saw her. She wrote that young members of the local aristocracy visited her as she waited by the shores of Loch Hourn, but that, quote, they came with design to see me, but not to relieve me.
Ew.
Isn't
That's
that
so
bizarre?
weird.
Isn't it bizarre? Isn't that what
Yeah.
the actual fuck?
Yeah.
Can you see why I had to be
Yeah,
like,
totally.
I gotta
That's
tell you
so
the story,
weird.
but
Why
this
would
is
you
so
do
fucked
that?
up. So the captors took her to the Monach
They
Isles.
couldn't even take selfies with her. Like
Not at
Wilson.
all. No, maybe they did like portraits,
Take a portrait real
like
quick.
duck lip portraits. She was housed in the Monach Isles with a landholder and his wife. Lady Grange was told by this man that he had no orders to provide her with either clothes or food other than the normal fare that he and his wife were used to, and they were poor. She lived in isolation for 2 years at this place. She didn't even know the name of the island that she was living, and it took her like 2 years, I think, to find out who her landlord was. She was there until June of 1734, and that's when some men came and they told her they were going to take her to Orkney, but they took her instead to St. Kilda. Yeah, it'd be like, oh, I'm taking you to L.A. Here's Bakersfield.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a total switcheroo.
Yeah.
So she was housed in the even more remote island of Herta. This place was completely isolated and cold and shitty.
So is this because somebody knew where she was? Like, if no one was looking for her, why did they keep moving her?
It may just be, we're sick of her, or it's someone
maybe.
else's problems, or maybe, it did say no one was coming for her.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we have to stay one step ahead.
Yeah. It's weird.
I don't know.
Okay.
But I say housed, it really was a stone storage hut. It was like 10 by 20. I'm going to post a picture
It's
of
like a
it.
prison cell.
No, it's a round hut, like those Native American huts that we saw out at the
yeah.
Shumash place.
Yeah.
Like that, but stone. And it was, this place was really gross. She described Herta as a vile, nasty, stinking poor isle, and insisted that, quote, I was in great misery in the husker, but I'm 10 times worse and worse here. And this place, it sucked. It had an earthen floor, rain ran down the walls, and in winter, snow had to be scooped out in handfuls from behind the bed. She spent her days asleep, drank as much whiskey as was available to her, and wandered the shore at night, bemoaning her fate. Doesn't that suck? And think about where she was, on the coast of Scotland. It's got to be fucking cold.
And she doesn't have all the trappings that she had in Edinburgh, where she would be warm and have warm clothes. And
No, and even that landlord's like, I don't have to give you shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't care who you are.
Yeah, exactly. While she was here, though, this is when she wrote letters that made it back to her lawyer in Edinburgh. But her fucking husband and his friends blocked effort to go search for her. And kind of a sidebar on this fucking lawyer, he said that he knew all along she had been kidnapped. This is her lawyer.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, yeah, I knew you had been kidnapped, but I assumed they were taking care of you. Like that you were being treated really well. But I knew you were kidnapped?
And I didn't come
the
look for you?
fuck?
Maybe he was on the take also. Or
I
was
don't know.
like,
He did fuck all to help her, though.
did he have Jacobite leanings also, maybe?
It didn't say, but ironically, his name was Thomas Hope.
Eh.
Thomas Hope was finally appalled when he got these letters. So he paid for 20 armed men to go to St. Kilda at his own expense. And that rescue party arrived to this shitty island, and Lady Grange had already been removed from there. By now, she's 61 years old. Fuck. So from Shit Island, she was taken to many other locations. Local folklore suggests that she may have been kept for 18 months in a cave near the coast.
Wow.
For sure, she was housed by this guy, Rory McNeil, at Trompan in Waternish, because that's where she died. 12th of May, 1745. And McNeil, this guy that she was staying with, had her, quote, decently interred the following week in the local churchyard. But for some reason, a second funeral was held nearby sometimes later, where a large crowd gathered to watch the burial of a coffin filled with turf and stones.
That's weird.
But there wasn't much else information I could find about why that
they
happened.
did it.
Even more bizarrely, it's also said that this was her third funeral. Because Lord Fuckrod Grange husband had one in Edinburgh shortly after her kidnapping.
Oh, shit.
This guy was
She's
such
dead.
an asshole.
She's gone.
He would have known. He knew
He knew.
that
set
she's
it
not
up.
dead.
Yeah. Well, for the kids. You got to do it for the kids.
The kids didn't fucking care.
No, but that's what the funeral was for the kids.
Yeah. So yeah, what the actual
That's
fuck?
fucking crazy.
Why?
That's so crazy that why would they just keep moving
Yeah,
her?
so,
It's so weird.
why would he go to these lengths to get rid of her? Like, just
Yeah.
kill her, right? It's easier. It's less expensive. She will for sure be gone. Why were there so many willing participants in this shit?
She must have really known some shit. Like
Yeah.
like I feel like there's got to be more to the story. Like,
And she was never rescued.
yeah.
So first of all, to answer the first question of why did he go through these lengths? Why didn't he just kill her?
Yeah.
The historians actually said, well, he was a religious guy. It was kind of against his religion. I'm like, but he's a heavy drinker. He's a philanderer. He
Yeah.
married Fanny.
Yeah.
Like
Did
after
he?
he fucking married Fanny.
That's why he had the funeral.
So he could marry
So
Fanny.
he could marry Fanny
Yeah.
because if he's a religious guy,
Right.
He has to. He
She-
can't.
there's
Till
no- yeah,
death do
divorce,
us part.
yeah.
He can't
Yeah.
divorce her. She has to die.
Right. But I think he could. So one other thing was, no surprise, women were not treated well in the eyes of the law during this
What?
time. Right?
Really?
There was even like still witchcraft shit going
Oh
on.
yeah, no,
right?
I know, yeah.
Divorce was a sticky thing for a woman, and they often didn't get custody of their children once they divorced. Not that she gave a shit,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying in general.
That's crazy.
And then also, it could be that he was politically ambitious and scared of that treason, since he was also a Jacobite. Like I said, his brother was exiled. One of the kidnappers was found guilty of treason and executed. So they were all kind of in on it. But he may have just been scared shitless and was too much of a wuss to kill her. Maybe he liked that she was being tortured.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, especially if I mean, that's psychological abuse. Like, she was abusive to her husband.
Of course she was, but
So
like
maybe
probably
it was
very
like-
mentally ill.
Yeah. And so, but for him, from his perspective, he's not thinking she's mentally ill because
Oh,
it
of
isn't-
course not.
You know, so
No, no,
to
no.
him, he's like,
It's just
I'm
a
going to make her
nuisance.
pay.
Yeah. It may be that nobody liked
My
her.
God, can you imagine how much worse off she must have been in that situation if she was already mentally ill?
Oh my God. I can't
Ugh.
imagine. I really can't. But maybe everyone else was like, well, good riddance. That's one way to get rid of her.
And then that's why maybe that is why people moved her away. They're like, she keeps going crazy out there.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, well, she needs to be in a facility.
Right. Also, there are no written records that exist written by women of this situation, of her particular situation. There are records written by men that talk about her. The only woman we hear about or hear from is her. And
yeah.
her letters. And her letters are housed in the University of Edinburgh's archive.
Oh, cool.
And a friend of this podcast gets to read them and smell them. And that's how I found out about Lady Grange, through a listener whose name is Alice Doyle. Hi, Alice.
Thanks, Alice. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And her story, of course, has inspired poems and stories and plays and all that. And yeah, if you go to the University of Edinburgh, you can smell her letters.
That sounds awesome.
Field trip.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I'm in.
That's Lady
That's
Grange.
very cool. Really interesting. See, interesting women, right?
Yeah, but what the fuck? Like, see, I wanted to tell you about her, but she wasn't kind of a hero. Like, she didn't do some of these amazing things that other women that we talk about do. She wasn't a warrior. She wasn't a scientist. She just literally lived a really what the fuck life.
Yeah. It's and like, yeah, it's interesting because it's like, first it highlights how women were treated. And it's also like an interesting side note too, especially if you're interested in, you know, the Jacobite movement and Scottish history, which I totally am. So it's kind of interesting to hear about these other little tidbits of things that were going on because especially right before the 45, there was a lot of that stuff going on in Scotland.
Sure.
And so it's really interesting to hear. You don't hear about women involved in that movement. It's not. You know, I mean, there were, I think, probably some women spying and things like that, most likely because they're in a position where they can, you know.
Just like our Revolutionary War, where there were women spies.
But you don't hear about them either. You hear about, you know.
Except for that movie we were going to write about. What was it? Spy.
That's right.
532 or something like that.
Or may still. Time is, you know.
Yeah.
Irrelevant, I guess. I don't know. No, but it's like we hear about, you know, Paul Revere, but we don't always hear about
The girl.
Yeah,
The 16-year-old girl.
So, see, I don't even know her name, but I know Paul Revere's name, and I can't think it.
It started with an S.
Sally Dickens.
I'm going to look it up. You keep talking.
Okay, but and this is a person who rode twice as far at less than half the age.
Yeah, she was like 16.
And is actually the person who really woke most of the people up. And we don't hear about her. We hear about Paul Revere and, you know, the female spies.
Sybil Luddington. I knew it started with an S.
Sally, whatever. I was close.
That's close.
It started with an S. Yeah,
But
Sybil
you know what's
Luddington.
fucked up? Okay, so I looked it up. I wrote Paul Revere ride woman.
Yeah.
And every, like, Google search, it says Was there really a teenage female Paul Revere? The next
Yeah.
one, Sybil Luddington, is known as the female Paul Revere.
Yeah.
She's the fucking female Sybil.
Yeah, she's just Sybil Luddington.
Damn it. Okay.
Exactly. And that that
Oh,
was
but thank
like,
you, Mental Floss. Mental Floss says the 16-year-old revolutionary who outrode Paul Revere.
There we go.
There
Thanks,
you go.
Mental Floss. Get a small applause for you. But and that was the interesting thing too about Mandukhai is like you hear about Genghis Khan and you have this
Yeah.
idea of Genghis Khan, and this was
Absolutely.
a woman who did like the same thing. She reunited the Mongols after 100 years and like did all of this dope shit, and you don't hear about her, you know?
The only thing I think about women in that period, especially if you mention Genghis Khan, I just think about women like getting
The
raped.
women, yeah,
That's it.
exactly.
That's so sad.
It's so sad that, and it's just, yeah. So don't worry, guys. That's why we're here.
That's right.
Oh, that was a good one, though. I feel really bad for her, though. Like, it gives
Isn't
me
that
this, I feel
horrible?
this, like, empathy and, like, this desire to go back in time and just, like, get her the help she needed, you know?
Right. Yeah. But she was kidnapped and held for like 13 years. 13 or
Jesus.
15 years.
Just, like, I'm sorry. Like, I
No.
know I don't want to, like, advocate killing people, but it's, like, just kill her. Like,
She
why?
sounded
It's so
miserable.
crazy. And why keep moving her? And why, like, it's just like the mentality of that is so crazy. And actually, so this started in, like, what did you say? 1730?
1730.
So
Or shortly thereafter.
she
yeah.
died before the Battle of Culloden.
No, it happened while she was there, and it actually fucked up the rescue attempt.
Really?
Yeah. That's the part I said I can't really go into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the battle was happening, and because the battle happened, it actually meant that help didn't get to her when it could have.
That sucks.
Yeah, but 1745.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like, so then and it was 13 years. So I was trying to do the math. Like, wait, so was she, oh, that's so crazy. See,
Yeah.
that's interesting. That is where she's just like kind of the edge of history. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
And that's, we've discussed numerous times before that a lot of the time we end up talking about these more powerful, substantial people.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't often get a story about someone who's just kind of a normal, average person.
Yeah.
But because of the letters that she wrote, we
Mm-hmm.
have her story. And she's just kind of, I mean, she didn't turn him in for treason. She wasn't responsible for any of these people. She didn't try and stop the revolt. And so she really is just kind of just a person who something terrible happened to, you know?
A lot of women that we talk about, they make history happen.
Mm-hmm.
She had history happen to her.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it's cool. That was interesting.
It's fucked up.
It was super fucked up.
Oh my God.
Especially, like, can you imagine if she's been rich her whole life and just like, here, live in this shed. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's not really a shed. I mean, it's this little stone, like rounded hut.
Yeah. Like, is it
didn't
like the hut that Luke lives in?
It wants to be that when it grows up.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I have pictures to show you of similar huts.
Okay.
I don't know if it's hers, but it's very similar.
Yeah. It would probably be actually similar construction because I'm talking about The Last Jedi, if you are not familiar with the franchise known as Star Wars. Those buildings that they're in, that's actually like an ancient ruins. So if that is a construction that was used by like the older occupants of the British Isles, then it's likely that it's at least similar construction, or we're like, I'll look at the pictures.
Yeah,
but
yeah. It looks like an igloo made with river rock.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it sucks if you're
sucks.
living in it.
Yeah, yeah. Especially, I mean, they're not in Malibu.
No,
This is
Scotland is
oh my
cold.
God, it's so fucking cold.
it's so cold.
It just sounds so miserable.
They get like Arctic wind.
Yeah,
Arctic.
Arctic. Yeah,
You know who lives there?
Polar
No-
bears.
I was gonna say nobody. No, Arctic wind. I don't want to live anywhere where there's even like the
The word
slightest chance of
Arctic.
Arctic anything. No, thank you.
Yeah.
No.
So she may have been a bitch, but man, what do you got to do to deserve that?
Yeah.
That just sucks.
It's crazy. It's too bad. And like her whole life was fucked up too.
Yeah, it started with her.
I wonder what
dad
happened to her
shooting
other
mom.
siblings. If they had like
say.
normal lives, or if they also went a little bit off.
They should have written letters.
They
We'd
should
know.
have.
Maybe
Then
they
we would
did.
know.
Alice, let us know if there's anything we're missing, if there are other letters, or if there's more about her family, because that'd be interesting to know.
Yes.
If it's just her stuff. Fuck her lawyer.
Yeah,
I knew you were kidnapped.
I thought you were
They're
fine,
treating you
though.
bad. What?
No. Being kidnapped is a
Fucker.
bad thing? What? No. I didn't know.
Oh God, that abduction.
Oh, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's like a Tarantino scene.
You know what it tells me, though? That she was fierce. Because, I mean, unless they were beating her for their own pleasure, there's no reason to beat somebody like that unless they're fighting back.
You're right.
So to me, it really sounds like she was putting up a substantial fight,
Yeah.
which, and also, to her credit, despite being kind of a biatch, she was able to live in those conditions for 13 years.
She survived. She sure did.
She was definitely not a frail.
And she didn't run too, because
know.
she wasn't shackled.
Yeah.
It said at nights she would wander the beaches.
Yeah.
But where the fuck are you gonna go? I mean, she said everything said this was so remote.
Well, and if people knew who she was, I would assume, like personally in that situation, if I'm a person of some substantial value, I would say, hey, Fisherman Joe or whatever, like I'll get you some shillings or whatever
Yeah,
when
I'll get you some
get
mercs.
if you get me back over here and help me out, like you got a horse or a wagon or something, like let's go and I'll pay you when we get there. And they would know who she was and know that she was worth it. So like, it's interesting to me that she didn't even try and negotiate her own.
No, it
You
doesn't
know?
seem to. Maybe if we
So-
read more of her letters, we'll get more of an insight into how she felt.
Yeah.
Her letters are written in like regular books too. Like we can go see those.
They won't smell as good.
No, it's the first thing I asked Alice. I'm like, do you get to smell those letters? Yeah, they're the actual letters.
That's really cool.
There's so many of us in the thread that we were talking on Facebook. It's like, can we come do that with you?
Yeah. We want to have a special field trip. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, this was fun.
Yeah, it was. Good times.
Very good times. Okay. Do you have anything else?
No. We'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
Hear you
We'll-
guys later.
We'll see you guys.
Talk at you guys
in a
later.
couple weeks. We hope you have a really good couple of weeks until you hear us again. And
Miss us.
don't get kidnapped and sent to a remote Scottish island,
No,
please.
here's a note. If you have a letter that proves treason, don't tell the guy that you have it. Okay? Just give it directly to Mueller. Okay?
That's right. All right, everyone. On that note, have a great couple of weeks and stay slutty.